I think for me, one of the biggest things was the ability to network. I really just have that spirit of gratefulness and gratitude that I think allowed me to, of course, introduce myself to those key contributors, but also I would say one of those pursuits is definitely being happy. Of course, I was given the advice long ago that find something you're interested in, chase it, the money will come after. The money will manifest itself and you'll find a way to do it. I love one of the ways where we connected, especially with your story, is while this is all great to say and it's been amazing to have these opportunities, there's also other opportunities that a lot of people don't talk about. I worked second shift at a school cleaning bathrooms with a master's degree. Thankfully, through another opportunity, someone who I had played rugby with in college, his dad owned a cleaning company and was able to help me get a job temporarily. But it's those opportunities and finding those ways to network. Join me, Jeremy Swick, on Into the Unknown, a podcast that delves into the personal journeys, stories, and experiences of individuals across diverse professions. As a historian by trade, I firmly believe that our personal histories shape our present and offer valuable insights into our paths ahead. With that being said, let's get into it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another elite episode of the Get Authentic with Marques show. I'm your host, Marques Ogden, and on today's elite episode, we're joined by Jeremy Swick. Before we bring up Jeremy to the stage, I want to thank two of our amazing sponsors. Let's go ahead and thank CannaAid, a hemp brand out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and Century 21 Realty Connect with Lee Valley. They are a transitional realtor out of the Atlanta, Georgia area. Now, let's bring up to the stage my good friend, Jeremy Swick. How you doing today, Jeremy?
Hey, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, not a problem, Jeremy. So, Jeremy, first question I have for you. What does the word authentic/authenticity mean to Jeremy Swick?
That's a great question. I mean, really, to me, authenticity means being unapologetically yourself, but having that confidence to know when it's time to maybe shift. If people give you feedback, maybe not ignore it, but also take it and value it, but also be willing to either adjust or my big thing is although I think getting better at things is important, I'm really much more inclined to double down on my strengths. And so having that self-confidence to know what is working for me is working for me and maybe avenues where I do need to change. So authenticity really just means being yourself, but having the confidence to change when you need to, but also just having that willingness to believe in yourself as well.
You know, Jeremy, I love how you said having the confidence when people give you constructive feedback to maybe make a pivot and or shift in another direction. And I feel sometimes people get a little bit offensive or get a little bit upset when people try to give them constructive feedback. And I tell people all the time, we don't know everything, right? And again, consider the source, right? You want to take feedback from people that you know are successful, do what you want to do, and listen to them, right? Not just any or everybody. But how do you, Jeremy, in your life, how do you learn how to be, or how have you learned how to be confident in yourself? So when people who you know are giving you constructive feedback have a real understanding of who they are and how they can help you, right, Jeremy? How do you allow yourself, how are you confident to say, you know what, that person is right, I got to make a pivot?
No, that's an excellent question. I think it's one of those things that it comes over time. Just like the saying, Rome wasn't built in the day, Rome still exists, it's still being built. But for me, one of those areas was really looking at who or what they were coming from or talking about. For example, when I was working on my master's thesis, when I had professors come and adjust my writing, I knew they knew best in that sense. More so than in the context, I would have other people read it as well. I wrote it on early college football stadiums in the 1920s, a very niche area, but an area I was excited to talk about. And so a lot of times I realized, and this actually would paved the way going forward, is sometimes my grammar or spelling or things would be off, but the content was correct. So I would often get feedback. I still get feedback sometimes about my grammar not being all the way where it should be. It was kind of one of those areas. Do I go and take another writing course when my content was there? However, I did recognize that there were issues with grammar and punctuation. I could write, a 5-page run-on sentence if I wasn't careful. I instead found tools to really help me. So this app program called Grammarly really helped take my writing to the next level, where the writing was great. It was just the punctuation and things like that missing, where I think that was one of those areas where, while I appreciated the feedback, I definitely didn't take it personal, but I found an avenue that would adjust and work for me.
Ladies and gentlemen, really love how Jeremy said he could write a 5-page sentence without punctuations and stops and proper grammar. So what did he do? He found an app to help him become better, more efficient at his craft. And that's the sign of a true leader, someone that knows they can always do better and they're not afraid and they don't have an ego where they look to gain other vantage points to become better at their craft. That to me is a great leader. Jeremy, share with our audience a little bit about what you're currently doing now and the work you're doing since you got your master's, all these phenomenal things. What is Jeremy Swick now doing for a career, and share a little more about you and who you are?
So thank you. One of the things is it's really been a long and interesting journey. I got my undergrad in education at the University of Wisconsin Eau Claire, focusing in history. Ended up deciding that wasn't the right path. Got my master's in public history, where I primarily studied African American history during the civil rights movement, looking at a little bit of the broader context, not just ideas like MLK, but looking at ideas of Black power and Black nationalism, all during the backdrop of the Cold War. As I mentioned before, I also really took an interest in football. And one of the greatest pieces of advice my professor could ever give me was find a subject you are very interested in talking about. It's going to be your life. If you get a master's, for the next 150 pages, if you go pursue a PhD, for the next few thousand pages and few years of your life. So I ended up choosing football, where I found a great interest, great passion. I was fortunate at the University of Wisconsin Eau Claire. Someone who had went there before actually started the Patriots Hall of Fame, Brent Hensel. He's now at the Packers Hall of Fame. And our professors saw we were kind of on the same trajectory, and he put me in contact. So I was fortunate enough in 2016 to work at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. That opened up a whole string of opportunities going forward. And I ended up being fortunate enough in 2018 to becoming the historian and curator for the College Football Hall of Fame down in Atlanta, which I was there up until about July of this year. I then had the opportunity to pivot and really talk about and look at another interest of mine, which was African American history. And I'm currently at the Wisconsin Black Historical Society in Milwaukee.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, what a very inspiring segment. I heard a lot about different trajectories, African American studies, football. He learned to lean on his network. And as a result of that, got introduced to people. Then he went with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Then went to go work at the College Football Hall of Fame. And now he's in Wisconsin at a museum around African American studies. So here's a question I have for you, Jeremy. One of the 6 spheres of influence, right? I heard you say the word opportunity, is all about your opportunity to go to the next level, to pivot like you've done in your life. It talks about 2 things. Number 1, you need to figure out what drives you. What is your passion, i.e., your purpose? If you go through life with no passion, no purpose, you'll end up having a very unfulfilled life, right? The second thing it talks about, what are your strengths? Leverage those. And I heard you say you double down on your strengths to get forward or move ahead in life. So when it comes to you around opportunity, right, Jeremy, what drives you? And what strengths have you leveraged to get where you are today? Not just where you are now, but the Pro Football Hall of Fame, the College Football Hall of Fame, to where you're at now. What strengths did you double down on or leverage to get where you are today?
I love that you mentioned that. That's great insight. I think for me, one of the biggest things was the ability to network. I really just have that spirit of gratefulness and gratitude that I think allowed me to, of course, introduce myself to those key contributors, but also I would say one of those pursuits is definitely being happy. Of course, I was given the advice long ago that find something you're interested in, chase it. The money will come after. The money will manifest itself, and you'll find a way to do it. I love one of the ways where we connected, especially with your story, is while this is all great to say, and it's been amazing to have these opportunities, there was also other opportunities that a lot of people don't talk about. I worked second shift at a school cleaning bathrooms with a master's degree. Thankfully, through
Mm.
another opportunity of someone who I had played rugby with in college, his dad owned a cleaning company and was able to help me get a job temporarily. But it's those opportunities and finding those ways to network, even though it's not always a linear path. It's a way to get to that next pivot, if you will.
Mm. Ladies and gentlemen, learning how to take what you want and get out of life what you deserve by working and going the extra mile. I want to focus on that for a second, Jeremy. You said you had a master's degree, but you ended up working as a custodian, late shift. I've been there. Talk about how that job, that position helped to shape you to who you are. So give me a story. So for me, I had no accountability, no responsibility in my life, right, Jeremy? For a few months after I lost everything in my construction company, I blamed everybody, my partner, the vendors, my employees, everyone, right? And when I got to Raleigh, I was working as a custodian. I still wasn't taking accountability. Not until I had my spoiled milk moment of clarity, where somebody's trash, rotten meat, nasty protruding garbage, right? Jeremy got with my body, my skin, and my clothes. At that point, I realized I was the culprit. Great song by Michael Jackson, The Man in the Mirror. He was the one that caused all this damage. He was the one that caused this screw up. So for you, right? So that was my life-changing moment. Love the quote by J.K. Rowling's. Rock bottom is where let me go back. Rock bottom is the moment from which I rebuilt my life. What did you learn, right, Jeremy, on your custodial job? Or what was it that helped you to understand you could be doing more and get more out of life if you made this move or that move in that direction?
No, that's great insight. Honestly, for me, it was actually as an undergrad. I had just finished education. I had finished my degree, and I realized teaching wasn't the avenue. And there was a rock bottom moment there where I just realized that this wasn't meant to be. And I was mad, as you mentioned, mad at people, mad at myself. I don't even know if I was mad at myself. It was, as you mentioned, kind of everyone else's issues, not so much mine. And you have this moment of clarity, thankfully, that I realized I was still in a position at living in Eau Claire, that I could pursue a master's degree. I came, talked to my professors, and it was one of those funny moments after being at a school for 5 years. They get to know you pretty well. We're talking about my thoughts of grad school, and my professor kind of laughs, and she's like, "I knew you were going to come to this conclusion eventually. I just didn't want to tell you about it." And one of with the head of the department, she's like, one of them's like, "I don't know if you'll get in. It's pretty rigorous." And the head of the department rolls her chair down the yard or down the hallway, and it's like, I think he can get in. I think he'll do pretty well." It was funny because that was about August, and I was supposed to start grad school the next, I think, week. So I actually audited my first couple weeks there because they had to let all the paperwork go through and all the formalities. So I'm sitting there in class, not even officially enrolled in school. All that is coming. And I think from that moment, it was kind of a moment of rebuilding who I was and what I really wanted to do. we fast forward a few years to the custodial job. And it's kind of another one of those moments. I had another job on top of that. Again, thankful for opportunity. I was working first shift, putting up gas station posters in the middle of the city in Milwaukee in the winter. The problem is you couldn't wear gloves. It's winter, it's snowing. I'm putting those little pump tops on gas station. I'm putting down these little, like, if you ever see like a hair cutting advertisement, things like that. I was doing that in the mornings after my job. And there was something when I was working second shift, I remember just like, surely this isn't it. I don't know what's next. I had moved back home after a different internship. I was there was something, and my real moment was I was driving back from work. I had a company car, and the alternator blew while I was on the highway driving over an interpass. I could not steer. I could not do much of anything. I was fortunate to get it to a place where I could pull off and end up getting assistance there. And I think for me, that was kind of one of those moments where, like, all right, after all this, there's something it's on its way. I was fortunate after that to I was applying to jobs nonstop. Got job offer from a museum in Minnesota. I had never even heard of the city before. I knew where it was, but I knew it was a next step. And I think one of those things we talked about is that pivoting. I'm always a big fan of falling forward or failing forward, although it maybe not be exactly what I envisioned it being. Just doing the best you can to take the next right step. Well, at the end of the day, we don't know the other side. We can't really see if I would have gone down this fork, this would have happened. If I would have gone down the other one, this would have happened. We really don't know. So I've always tried to do the best I can with the information given at that exact moment.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I have a ton of respect for Jeremy, his work ethic, working multiple jobs, getting things done, going after what he wants, pursuing his greatness through hard work, ambition, and being driven. And my last question is, Jeremy, when it comes to being a great leader, there are four key areas that great leaders excel in: inventing, visioning, relating, and sense making. In your idea or your thought process, right, Jeremy? Which is the most important and why? Again, is it inventing, like creation of ideas? Is it visioning, creation of a blueprint to make the idea manifest from your mind to actually something you actually can see and go after? Is it relating to people to get them to like you and want to trust you? Or is it sense making, making difficult, arduous information easily understood, processed, and applicable to who you're speaking to?
Well, I would say all four of those are important aspects. I think relationship building is by far and large the biggest ones. I didn't know at the time when I was in education, in the education field, that helped boost my self confidence, my confidence, but my social skills, my interpersonal skills to a level that I realized a lot of people who are historians and curators, and I'm now an archivist, are great people, but they tend to be on the more reserved side. A lot of people, if they try to guess what I do, they think I'm a social studies teacher. They think I'm a teacher, which is something I really actually pride myself on, is having those interpersonal skills. As you mentioned, it's making those relationships work, understanding like when I was in the classroom, there's a variety of learners. I think that translates to the business, the world as a whole, understanding, trying to see things from other people's point of view, but also just finding ways to work with a wide range of people is, I think, crucial for a leader.
Wow. Phenomenal episode with Jeremy Swick. Jeremy, if people want to get in touch with you, find out more about where you work, what you're doing, how can people get in touch with you? How can they connect with you after hearing your great interview today?
So on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, you can find me at The Average Historian. On Twitter, it's at RealJSwick. And of course, look me up, Jeremy Swick, on LinkedIn. I should be the first result you see. So I always love connecting and networking with people. And again, I really appreciate your time.
Jeremy, you were phenomenal. And the authentic tip of this amazing episode: learn to look at things from other people's perspective. Learn to value things and see things through others' eyes. Don't be so focused on what you see. Think about people around you, who you're interacting with, who you're communicating with. Think about how they see things. Empathize with people, have compassion for people, see the world from others' lenses, from others' perspectives, from others' point of view. Doing this will allow you to relate to people, connect with people better. And I agree with Jeremy 100%. Relating to people and connecting with people is the number one superpower that every great leader has. Mention a few: Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Gandhi, Rosa Parks, Mother Teresa. All these people could relate to people, and that's why they moved mountains. Again, this episode was sponsored by CannaAid and Century 21 Realty Connect. We thank you both for aligning your brands with our show. My name is Marques Ogden, the host of the Get Authentic with Marques show. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great day.
That was another fun episode of Into the Unknown. I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen. And if it provides you any value or entertainment, I would love if you shared it with others, liked, subscribed, and really just help the podcast grow. Again, tell a friend, tell a foe, just anyone who might enjoy hearing some stories of people's own journeys and what got them to where they are today. Till next time.